So the flood levels, of course, were highest at 8th Avenue. I'm sure we all know that, as well as Johnny McKeithen Park and the area that surrounds Johnny McKeithen Park. A flash flood warning was not issued for the city until 11:15. I know it was issued a little bit earlier in some places, around 10:30, but the actual time period for here wasn't until very late in the evening on Sunday. No previous notice to severe rain was forecasted for that night, so there wasn't any way for us to prepare. We had no way of knowing that this event was coming, and neither did you. Again, the forecast, once that flood was issued, projected 3 to 5 inches had already fallen, with 1 to 2 more inches possible. So the rain projection was essentially a max of 7 inches, and we received 8. So even the projection at that time was still incorrect. So, this area obviously has had recurring flood events throughout the years, but I wanted everyone to understand what that means. And so we went back all the way to 2009 for the highest 5 rainfalls. The highest rainfall event that we had was in 2017. That was during June 7, 2017. It was 7.52 inches. And again, of course, that's not over the course of 2 hours. That is, of course, over the entirety of the day. So we have not received this much rain ever. And this is just the screenshot. It might be a little hard to see. This is the actual screenshot of that event for Sunday. 85, cloudy with a chance of rain. And it says here, the precipitation over the last 7 days was 0.10 inches. And the historic events, are 4, for November. So again, it was not anticipated and just completely extraordinary to the day. Just some screen grabs that I had taken that night for the event, and you can see, the size of the storm, who was impacted, how we're impacted. Flash flood warnings again for Palm Beach County right there. We're projected for 11:15. We're right on the border between Broward and Palm Beach. I think that's one of the things that we have to look at a little bit sometimes is the Palm Beach advisories versus the Broward advisories, because Broward, of course, goes all the way south, but we're on that border with Palm Beach. And then again, this is another screen grab showing all the impacted areas, and you can see Deerfield Beach at the very bottom of that impacted area. So with all the reports that we received that night and into the next day, the city documented every single incident of a phone call or a BSO incident. I know this map's a little hectic, but essentially what this map is every car that was stuck or abandoned because of the rain, power outages, street light outages, and flooding. So we had multiple street lights out, street light damage, power outages. More than a dozen vehicles were stranded that night because, again, no one was aware the flood was coming. They were out driving and the flood occurred. So and I'm going to focus back on this in a moment, while you obviously can see that the vast majority of homes that received flooding were, of course, right along the ridge, the entirety of the city was impacted. And this is just the rainfall events, showing again the 4 rainfall events that we just documented a moment ago. The graph might be a little difficult to see, but essentially the highest rainfall again we received in the last 10 years was 7.52 inches. So going into the 8th Avenue situation, so Deerfield Beach Gardens is a platted community. It was platted in 1957. The Southeast 8th Avenue is the lowest point of the subdivision. Lowest point meaning, as far as grade is concerned, is the lowest area. So essentially what that means is the most severe flooding will always occur along this road because it is the lowest point. And during the event, right, there's mitigation that stages the flood peak. The events that were trying to occur, we were trying to prevent during the project that we just finished, was essentially for these reasons, right? To reduce flood duration, to essentially add additional infiltration trenches, catch basins, and manhole structures, and the completion was finished about a month and a half ago. We hope the final completion should be done right now, but we are still finishing with the punch list of items. So this project, which I know a lot of you had, and we'll talk about this, but I know a lot of you had thoughts that this project would resolve these issues. Unfortunately, wasn't designed even for this max capacity, right? So the project itself, additional drainage, additional flooding, additional catch basins, reducing the flood duration, but it wasn't designed to meet this level. So going back to this map again, we documented 44 residents that were impacted. Those are the residents that either communicated to us, either phone or email, or that we met as we were walking along the roadways talking to residents. Just going a little bit further, you can see the area. Now I want to talk about the highlighted colors here, and we're going to talk about those being the flood zones and explain the flood zone differences between the two. But you'll notice when we go in even further how the homes are really surrounded by this area. The majority of the homes that were impacted are in or around the area that's yellow. So again, it was an overwhelmed drainage system. Again, with the use of high precipitation, the flood elevations here. This is again another chart. I know it might be a little bit difficult to see, but this will be a document that everyone can access or have. It's not going to be something you have to take photos of. But again, the flood elevation, if it was at 6.5 feet, that's what the design is. That's what the storm is designed for, about 6.5 feet, right? At 7.5 feet is essentially where we were at on the 26th. So we're well over a foot beyond the design capacity of the project. And again, the rain peaked during the high tide. And the maximum elevation was 7.2, which essentially, if the equation comes down to a 25-year storm. And this is just the analysis of what was the high peak. The high tide at that time was just before 1 a.m. that night. And it's important to understand that high tide, it's not just the peak. It's really the hours before the peak and it's the hours after the peak. So when you have a high or low tide event, it's not just that top, it's the hours before and the hours after. So you don't get to low tide until the midpoint of a high tide break. So I want to talk about the flood designations for a moment, just make sure we all understand flood designations. There's multiples. So AO is, not anyone here is in that district, but essentially that is the lowest level, essentially being at the ocean or lower. The area that we're going to refer to here is the AE and the AH. So when you're at an AE, you have flood depths that are greater than 3 feet, and mandatory flood insurance is required. And AH could be shallow flooding, and again, between 1 and 3 feet, and mandatory flood insurance again is required. And then there's a VE, and then there's an X. And multiple areas in the city are X, but again, it doesn't stop you from that area flooding. It just means that the flood insurance really is not mandatory, and that's what the descriptions are really for, is essentially the level of flood insurance that you are required to have from FEMA. So just going back to the map, between, again, the AE and the AH, and AE being the lowest, this is a map showing all the AE and the AH. I know it's a little difficult to see with the color, but I'll show you in a second. This area here, that's the AE. That's the area where the majority of the flooding and the flooded residents occurred. So you can see that within this AH area, there's this one area here that is the lowest of the points. And again, 9 feet is what the base elevation is supposed to be. So we're supposed to be at a 9-foot average. If you were to build a home today, you'd have to be at a 9-foot average for your home above the level for flood elevation. Here, Crown Road is around 4.5 feet up to 6.5 feet. But these 3 homes, not to point anyone out, but these 3 homes are the lowest in the entirety of the area. One just above 6 and 2 below 6. So again, we're trying to be at a 9. That's what a normal home would be at. And a lot of these properties are actually below 6, and we had a 7-foot flood event. 7.22 foot flood event. So, obviously, garages, vehicles, living areas are all going to be impacted when we're more than a foot higher than the flood elevation for this area. I want to bring up Yosef for a moment. Yosef is our city engineer, and he's going to discuss some of the photographs. Myself and some of the commissioners received a lot of these types of photographs from residents, and we want to discuss what these actually are, because I'm aware that there's been some conversation of what some of these mean. So I'm going to just have Yosef discuss these.
Good evening, everyone. I understand how these photographs cause concern among many of you. Back truck just dumping something into the drainage system. We were completing the work right around this time. So the contractor needs to clean the system. So what they do is they go with the vac truck, they suck up the water that is there. It's not contaminated water, it's water with groundwater, some dirt. Then they vacuum it from the system to clean it out, flush it. Then inside the truck is separated, and the water, which is murky but is not dirty, it doesn't have any more of the silt and the sedimentation that it had when it was sucked, is put back in the system. It's not contaminated water, it's just groundwater. And so that's what happened there. And of course, when you open one of these big concrete structures that are installed there, this particular one is in the intersection of 4th Street and Southeast 8th Avenue. First, what you see is that seldom we have these structures completely empty because our water table is quite high. So what you see there is the water table. There's some dirt there floating a little bit, but nothing significant. We checked, and there's no big sedimentation in the box or anything when they cleaned it. So that didn't contribute at all to the overwhelming of the system. So that this is a normal process of cleaning out the system before turning into the city once the contractor is finished. So there's nothing that this photograph shows to pinpoint to a contribution to the problem you all had. This, as Mr. Power just explained, is just a result of a very rare, unusual storm that brought a lot of rain, too much rain for the system to handle. The system, all residential drainage is designed for a 10-year storm. This storm would have been a 25-year storm if all that water would have fell within 24-hour period. It fell in 2-hour period. So it's even a rarer storm than a 25-year, and that's what overwhelmed the system. Oh yes, and there was a particular residence where we had a report of a problem with the sewer lateral. So today we went and inspected that, and we found that yes, the lateral, the service from the house, when it connects to the main, was cracked. That lateral is a very old pipe, it's clay pipe, and it cracks easily, and with all the construction work that we had there, maybe it's why it cracked. So we replaced it. We inspected the lateral to see if there was any blockage or anything. There is nothing there to pinpoint to a blockage from the city's part. The owner of the residence has to install a clean out.
That's a lie. What you're saying is a lie.
Excuse me. Why do you say I am lying
That's
to
my
you?
house. I had it scoped.
Yes.
The pipes from the sidewalk out to the street
Yes.
go down and they come back up. But you're sitting here telling me there's nothing wrong with that? And it
Yes.
backs up sewage into my house?
Okay. I'm sorry that you feel I am lying to you. I'm not lying to you. Let me explain then. I saw the video that your plumber sent, and when they went into the system, and the camera goes through the system. Of course, there is water there. It's an old pipe, and it has some deviations, and it goes through the water, but the camera goes through. There is not a blockage now.
It dips down 4 or 5 inches.
Yes.
So you're
Yes.
saying that's normal.
That's normal in an old pipe, and another thing that happens is when it goes closer to the main, it just dips. It just turns down to meet the main, and it's a steep turn.
It has to go up to get to the main.
It has to go down and up again.
It goes up. You can see it in the video that my plumber took.
Yes, and
So why-
remember,
why-
remember. This is, if there is a dip, it's like when you
Just
have your,
Just stop. Stop.
Excuse me.
It is a conversation, but you're
If you
lying.
want, if you want to talk to me, we can talk. I can explain to you. You can answer back, and we can have a conversation. But if you don't let me explain, maybe I go after we finish here. I talk to you personally, and we want what I'm telling you is that now we repair the Y, and when you install the cleanout, we are gonna go and see and inspect further. As of today, whatever we could see when we replace it, there is no blockage at the part of the city.
Why can't you go in and look? Why do I have to put in a clean out right now?
You have to install a cleanout.
Why? Why do I have to do that?
A cleanout will allow
Let me
you.
rephrase it. Why do I have to do that right now? Why can't you go in with your cameras and look? Why do you have to wait for me?
We
put
did
clean out?
look. We did look.
Then you would have seen that it dipped down and it's still broken.
We did look. Then we see some disalignment.
So it
Yes,
is. It isn't.
but it is not a blockage. There is a disalignment, but it doesn't mean that it blocks your sewer.
But the dip is from you guys.
That was fixed today.
The dip is not from the city.
Hold on, Ryan.
Yep, just a second.
Ryan, so I can't have
It
you
is
talking.
from the city.
Ronnie, just a
I can't have
second.
you talking back and forth.
Okay, so
Just do it for the recording.
excuse me, we can talk to you after we finish
Yeah,
today.
we're gonna bring around
I
the
will.
microphone and we're gonna talk more because the whole thing's gonna be recorded, so the voices won't be heard. That's why I just like, we'll just bring this out.
And I will make sure that we'll address your issue. I'm telling you what we did today, but I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna give you my phone number. I'm gonna go to your residence, and we will converse until you are satisfied that we did our best to see what's going on. But I'm not lying to you.
Okay. So I think thank you, Joseph. I think what the photograph is really just trying to show is the extent of work to which the city has gone to try to assist on this roadway. We've had every single employee for environmental services pulled off of every project that they've had to come and assist in this road. We had over 20 individuals from our municipal services department come for 8th Avenue for the entirety of the week. We've been overtime for the entirety of the week. So we've done many, many things to try to fix the issues as quickly as possible. And this is just one example of the work that's being done. But we will talk about this more in more detail. So we're going to just finish on the presentation, and we're going to go around and do the comments, okay? So just going through conclusions. So again, most of the area within 8th Avenue is in the flood zone AE. The street elevations are somewhere between 4 and 6.5 feet. And then FEMA requires a base flood fill elevation of 9 feet. Unusually high precipitation, of course, was the cause. It potentially is a 25-year storm. We are designing for the 10-year storm. That's what the design was for. And then, again, the storm coincided with the high tide. And it did overwhelm the entirety of the system. And again, the flood elevation was up to 7.22 feet. And the water we received within approximately 4 hours, which I think was a success of the project. There was no standing water. There was no standing water the next day.
There's still standing water today.
There was no standing water with the roads. So again, in recommendations,
Were you there?
yes.
We have 8 hours.
So complete evaluation for the project still needs to be performed. The engineer of record is working with the city. We are expediting a phase 2 analysis of the project. We want to evaluate some state and federal resources to help flood-proofing alternatives for residents. And again, we want to potentially increase the drainage project further to the north to help some other residents that we didn't get to in the presentation, but that are actually still within AE further north of the project. So with that is the presentation. I hope everyone understands, what occurred and what we tried to do. But we want to hear everyone's thoughts and questions today. So, do you want me to moderate that with the mic?
you. I think we all just need to understand a little bit why in the planning phase of this I'm not gonna use this. In the planning phase of this project that cost a lot of money that we all went through for a very long time, why this extraordinary amount of rain combined with high tide was not accounted for. Understanding where we live, right? We live in South Florida where we're prone to rain, hurricanes, flooding. In the last 16 years, as you said, you went back and the maximum amount of rain was 7.5 inches, right? So we didn't plan for a little bit more. I don't understand that.
I understand that frustration. I'm really sorry about that. The issue that we're trying to explain though is really there's no amount of planning that's been done or drainage that's been done when the water level is just higher than the elevation of the homes.
I understand, but you're telling us that our homes are low and that we're in a flood zone. We know that, but you guys spent all this money and time on this project, so why could we not plan a little bit more? Look at some other resources, look at some other experts.
We want to plan a little. We do want to plan more. There will be a phase 2 analysis for this area. It is one of the worst areas in the entire city when it comes to drainage.
Understandable, and
yes.
That's great that we're going to plan for it now, but I think it's very disappointing that my neighbors here have all gone through this twice in 5 years.
Right.
It's terrible, and it's very frustrating for us. I mean, we feel like this was all a waste, and to be honest with you, you're telling us things like we live in a flood zone, our homes are low. Okay, so are we supposed to just not live here? We like Deerfield Beach. We stay here because we love living here. We love our street, we love our neighbors, and it sounds like you're just telling us you knew what you signed up for.
No,
it's
we're not
very
saying
frustrating.
that at all. No, we're not saying that at all. We're just trying to explain what happened. I don't know what's going on with the microphone. I'm sorry about that.
Just walk up to the mic.
The gain is.
You're gonna have to cover your mic first.
You think that's maybe it? That might be it. Okay. I just want to mention I've been here since 2016. This is at least the third time that I've seen flooding on the property. Back in 2005, the city commissioned a study for this area, but they didn't move forward with a project. I mean, so this past commission created a stormwater master plan and a stormwater fee for the sole purpose of doing projects like this. But that's only 4 years ago. And this was the first project that was done. So more has to be done, but this is really the first time in the knowledge of the city that I'm aware of that there's actually been action to fix these issues. And it's not saying that it's your responsibility, but it is just explaining the nature of what happened on Sunday. I'll try to cover this up and see if that works.
So basically, I'm just gonna go there.
There you go.
So basically, everything that was just said by the city, I'm just gonna paraphrase it. We're sorry. Nobody's to blame. This is a natural disaster. We're not gonna be able to fix anything. It's gonna happen again. There was too much rain. It was lunar tides. It was this. At 8:30 on 8th Avenue and 4th Street, there was no water moving in the drains that are there. Currently today, you showed one side of the picture. There's a backstop or a flow preventer from water coming back to 8th Avenue from Federal Highway. The pipe coming out of our neighborhood is 2 feet lower than the pipe on the exit. This is a gravity-fed system. This system is never gonna work. We are gonna flood the next time it rains more than 4 inches, let alone 8 inches.
Yep.
We don't wanna hear that this didn't work. We're looking at all the avenues. We wanna hear that you're gonna put pumps in and you're gonna fix the problem. Because we could have driven down the turnpike and thrown all these millions of dollars out the window, and we probably would have had a little bit better feel about it. But we wasted all our time and our energy fighting the first time, thinking the city was doing it right and gonna pick a reputable company to put in an actual plan that was gonna work, and they didn't. And here we are again, 5 years later, every single one of our homes that got flooded is empty. They're trying to find a place to live, but we're hearing that it's not the city's fault because this is a 25-year rainstorm event. How can we trust the city to make any decisions after what we just saw with how this plan was executed, how the company was picked, how everything with the design went? We have no say in what company is picked, what the design is. We have to rely on our city engineer, our elected officials to make those decisions. But who is the one that gets stuck with the aftermath of it? right? I went to the bathroom before, and that thing says 1999, we're a Project Impact City. There's nothing about impact with this city. This is a failure. And if nobody's gonna take ownership of it, then nobody should have jobs. Because if any one of us in our profession did something and it was as catastrophic as this, we would all be fired. But instead, we blame it on a lot of rain, and we're sorry. Go look at that system. It's still holding water. It's been a gravity-fed system from before. Guarantee if we had the old system in, it would have been better and we wouldn't have flooded as bad. I'm telling you right now, because that would move water. So stop blaming everybody. Stop saying it's this, it's that. We appreciate all the analysis. I understand it was a tide, but at 8:30 at night, it was 4 hours before high tide. So you can't use the tides. And if you look up when the lunar tides are, the peak was October 21st. That was when the full moon was. And it's not like tides are new. They've been going around a long time. So if this engineering company drew you guys something up that was never gonna work and we wasted taxpayer dollars on putting it in the ground, that's the next question you should ask. Why'd we even do it if it wasn't gonna work? You know, so everybody's got concerns, but we came to a meeting to hear the city's excuses. Nobody here is here to hear an excuse. We lived it that night by ourselves. Because the city wasn't out there on 8th Avenue. It was us.
The emergency services manager over there.
Yeah, my name is David Ivanowski. I live at 514 Southeast 7th Avenue. My house has been there for 55 years. It has never been flooded. I got 3 inches of water in my home. It wasn't a Wilma. It was a regional little rainstorm. We had a system that was torn up. It was only 16-inch concrete pipes that went into a drain field, not a drain field, but actually a system that ran. No one had the plans. No one could show me where the drain system was in the city. The new system, from what I understand, talking to master plumbers that have sat and watched this project, you put in a 32-inch, 36-inch pipe, big diverters that were sprayed with Save Our Trees all the way around the neighborhood. Right? Put them in the ground, and then there was a corrugated pipe with holes in it. This is a French drain system. And you put it below the water table. You take a sieve, put it in your sink. How much water do you think it's going to keep out? That's what we have here. I saw it. How are you going to fix it?
That's what we want to know.
55 years, my house had no water. My insurance adjuster, not a public adjuster, from National Flood came out, put his limits at $125,000 of damage. And that is not the contents coverage. What are you going to do about it? Fix it. Don't want to hear an excuse.
Yeah, I'd share the same sentiments as my other neighbors. It does come off a little condescending when you kind of say like, well, your houses are below the water table and the water line, yada, yada, yada. We all went through it 5 years ago on that rainfall level chart that you showed, 2022, 6.66 inches. We didn't flood then. In regards to the street improvements, I mean, communication with the neighbors, I don't know if you guys ever got like a weekly update on whose driveways was gonna be closed and whose.
No, never heard.
I
Just
couldn't
couldn't
go to work
one day.
I
Couldn't get
We
to
have
work.
drainage behind our house that the city hadn't seen ever. 5 years we lived there. It's an easement. Right. So that was the first time that's ever been cleaned. And I just wanted to read this quick little article because, again, you were mentioning we're close to Palm Beach County and Boca, which I'm sure everybody saw the Boca Resort. They turned that around pretty quick, right? Well, it said here that city manager Beer had mentioned that a pumping station was activated and water levels were adjusted in the C-15 canal and the Hillsborough Canal to improve drainage. That next day, I saw 4 different pump trucks leaving like the resort and swale area. I had mentioned that in the past too. Even just doing something to try. You know, there was never. Why wouldn't we have some sort of late night call service with people that are active 24 hours? Do we not have 24-hour staff? We do. So yeah, why is there not pump trucks ready? I mean, even if it doesn't fix it, at least like mitigate the issue. You know, we sat in water. We couldn't drain our house because the water table, or just where the water sat, was above the seal of the door for 4 hours. So there's no point in trying to drain the house, right? So you're just letting it come in because it sat stagnant for hours, 11 o'clock till 2 a.m. Try something. But there's no effort. There's no number we can call. There's nobody out there. I mean, the ambulance barely made it. So, yeah, I don't know. I agree. I really think that development has failed the city. There used to be swales. There used to be green space. There is none. It's all pavement now. Like you said, you guys the city looked at this in, 1999? In 2005, and nothing was ever done, right? So there's 20 years. We're going to get rid of grass. We're going to get rid of other drainage opportunities, and that's the failure. And now, I mean, I think you're better off buying every house on 8th Ave. Don't fix the street. Don't do anything. Buy 8th Ave. Make it a park. Make it a swale. Make it a green area. I mean, that's your best move forward.
My house too.
Yeah.
Pay to have them raised.
I want everyone to comment, but I do want to just bring up one quick moment, is that we weren't able to get our vehicles out, obviously, because of the flooding. It wasn't just the flooding of you. It wasn't just the flooding for you, it was the flooding for the entirety of the city. You need to remember, all of Hillsborough had flooded, all of 10th Street was flooded. Yeah, so we had multiple stranded vehicles, so we were out at 5 a.m. we were mobilized.
We had an ambulance came down our street, was able to come down our street to help a disabled woman. Your trucks could have made it.
I don't know where the fire truck was coming from before we were coming
Came
from.
down Fifth Avenue.
Right, but the trucks aren't on our
Water in my
8th
house.
Avenue.
That means that Hillsborough is totally closed for all traffic, is what you're saying? No cars went down
It
Hillsborough
wasn't
that
because
night?
I was flying
We were-
from New Orleans and I landed at 11:30 or 11 o'clock. I got home at 11:40 down Hillsborough, and that's the only street I could go down to get into my neighborhood.
Probably in an Uber, like a Toyota Corolla.
We couldn't move our cars either, but our kids were scared of drowning.
Back to the answer card.
I'd just like to say that I was there the last time, in 2022. I left my house on 3rd Terrace without a drop of water coming up my driveway. My house is low, my neighborhood is low, but it's not as low. This time, I was over there trying to help out my son, and there was 2 foot of water on 6th Avenue. There wasn't a drop of water on 6th Avenue in 2022, June. I've been in that neighborhood since I started on the fire department in 1985, going up and down that street. And a rescue vehicle that goes to people's houses when there's an emergency, possibly life-threatening, couldn't make it up and down 8th Avenue.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. The city needs to do something to fix it. And putting a French drain in wasn't the answer. We spent millions on this drainage project. It's because of what happened, and everybody here, I was here, I've been in that neighborhood since 1980. Everybody was here in 2022, and it was the 100-year storm.
20.
The 100-year storm in 2022. 20-year storm. Okay? We should have known what it was going to look like. We knew what the 20-year storm looked like. We should have done something to be able to protect ourselves from the 20-year storm. We just had the 20-year storm again, and it's coming in. My son's house has a street that backs up from Federal Highway, and there's a catch basin in his backyard. And he gets the water rolling down his street coming from Federal Highway into his backyard, and it was a question. His wife was going to have a nervous breakdown of which was going to flood first, the front or the back. Whether it's coming in from Federal Highway or it's coming in from the front street. Every single room in that house, for the second time in 3 years, has the drywall taken out from 2 foot down. My son-in-law's house, my daughter's house, who lives on that street also at 325, has never had a drop of water in her house. And her house was completely flooded. So whatever we did with our French drain, it caused the drainage problem to expand. 6th Avenue had 2 foot of water. I walked across 8th Avenue and the water was in the middle of my thigh.
Same on 7.
And it can't be like that. Whether it's a 20-year storm, whether it's a 100-year storm, the city needs to do, there needs to be pumps. You know, when somebody calls, people from this area call, they were calling my son, and he's saying, call the city, the emergency number. The guy that answers the phone says, oh, the guy that's supposed to do something called in sick.
Yep.
Is that what we expect out of our city? I had a little bit more pride in the city because I worked here for 34 years. And every day I went to work, I tried to do the best job I could do. But it doesn't sound like that we did the best job we could do after the last storm. And what can be done now? I mean, I understand it's slow. A French drain is not the answer. We know that now. How many millions of dollars did we spend? There was 3 bids on this job.
What is the answer?
There were 3 bids on this job. What was the highest bid? $6 million. What was the next bid? $5.5 million, and we took the one for 3. Okay? We saved money. We saved money. The city, we have $35 million in undesignated funds.
And they took the palm trees.
Screw your trees, Maureen. $35 million we have in undesignated funds. We spent millions on this drainage project. And we're still walking through water up to our thighs. I don't care if it's 8 inches of rain. There should be 2 or 3 pumps on that street. They know. You just showed us on the goddamn videos. It's low. You know it's low. So we put a French drain in that's lower than the water table. Where's the water supposed to go?
In your house.
It goes in your house.
Yeah.
So whether it needs pumps, whether it needs a design of another system, whether the other 2 bids maybe had pumps in them for $6 million and $5 million, and we took the bid for 3. Where can we go from here? And like my son said, we're tired of excuses. Something needs to be done. And hey, it's not all the elected officials who are here now because maybe they weren't around. But I'm here to tell you, I walked up and down that street in 2002 when it was flooded. I walked up and down that street in 2005 when it was flooded. I walked up and down that street in 2022 when it was flooded, helping people in and out of their house. A poor lady fell in her house because the water was so deep and broke her hip. In her house. And the rescue truck couldn't get to her front door. It had to stop half a block away.
I know that.
Put that in us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, so this is I've lived in Deerfield for 5 years. This is my second flood where we're out of the house completely in the past 5 years. I can't live like this anymore. When I first moved here, I had a 4-week-old. Now I have a 3 and a 5-year-old. And how am I supposed to live like this? And what does this do for our property value? This is going to be, people are going to see this. You have to disclaim, you have to show that you had 2 floods in 5 years. This is going to kill my property value. I'm not going to be able to live in South Florida. I mean, come on.
That's the new form FEMA came out. When you sell your property, you have to sign whether you have ever had a flood. Not just the flood, not just the old form where you said yes or no. This is an actual FEMA form that states that you never have had a flood in a FEMA designated area or something like that.
Now I have to lie.
And if one of us sells for low, all of our houses are going to go for low. So, and then you guys said there's only one sinkhole or wherever that was. There is also another sinkhole that started where you guys were dumping the water into that drain, where you cover up with a cone. So what is that? How do you explain that?
Right in front of that picture where you saw the truck dumping that. There's a cone there for at least a week.
So hard, it pushed the sand out underneath the pipe, and the pipe fell, so the asphalt fell.
Yeah, but that's a problem.
Keep emptying the water.
Use asphalt.
So why did they keep emptying the water there if that was the reason and they kept doing it?
No, I have a sinkhole in my swale, and the water was shooting out of it, 18-inch wide hole, out of the swale where there was never any pipe line. And I have 4 drains on each corner, and none of the water went down the drains. It was shooting up out of this new hole, out of the ground.
They had asked to try to save questions for emails or something to make it easier.
It's up to you.
Either way, I just want to know if you have an email address, I get some questions to.
Can you talk closer to the mic? No.
Just wanted to see if there's going to be a place to email questions to, so I don't take up too much time. Yeah, also, if it's possible to bring up the slide that said characteristics. And on your note about the property value, before this one happened, I was able to tell people, yeah, my house flooded, but the city stepped up, spent $3 or $4 million on a drain system. My flood insurance went down to where now it's fixed. So you have the best, and I rebuilt my house with materials impervious to water. Now what do I say? But, yes. No characteristics. One of the first, second, and third slides. I just wanted to mention this because, you know, I've always been taught that if you say sorry, everybody makes mistakes. You take it, right? But it happens again. How much does a sorry really mean, right? So to start off the meeting by talking about, hey guys, this is just things that happen. Nobody could be prepared for this record-breaking rainfall, things like that, right? It really hurts, man. That it's actually worse this time. And none of these things, like these 8 inches you're talking about, we have 2-3 feet in our house, right? Like we have no warning. We had this improvement done, and it's worse. So to start off with this, I mean, it really takes any validity away from anything you say thereafter, you know, versus to say, hey, this happened, like, do we not know that this is gonna happen because we would have prepared better? It's the same street, things got worse. And to start off with these things that are basically like, hey guys, be more understanding, because it really takes the validity away from things. It makes it very hard to trust. You know, you say, oh, you guys showed up and this right away. The very next day, they barked if somebody was getting a fine for the bulk thing. Yeah, as soon as somebody called, but like, that communication is so poor within the city before. As soon as somebody called, yeah, as soon as somebody makes some noise. So we're all here to make some noise this time, but I mean, we all love this area so much, man. We're a family, you know, and that's some of the things that family teaches you. You know, you don't say sorry and I mean it, and you don't put fluff to try to make better of it. Knowing this stuff, hiring those people, be embarrassed that it happened and tell us that you're going after them with us. And I'll even my question.
Well, thank you for having this meeting. It's really appreciated that you have an opportunity for people to speak. I'd just like to clarify a couple of facts. First off with a question, the readings for the rain gauge, where was that rain gauge located?
Your rain gauge doesn't show the average
gates we collect from our environmental services.
And it is located where?
Basically in the center of the city.
Okay.
Right. You couldn't imagine even more range.
My rain gauge, which is located on 8th Avenue, and that I've been a member of the Community Collaborative Rain, Snow, and Hail network for over 20 years. Every day I report precipitation. I read out of my rain gauge that has a capacity of 11 inches of rain. I can read to 1/100th of an inch of rain. Okay? At 7 o'clock that evening on the 26th, I went out and looked at my rain gauge because the bottom fell out. I had about 2/10 of an inch. I didn't take the exact measurement. Okay? By 10 o'clock, the bottom was still falling out. And I thought, my rain gauge holds 11 inches, but I may not be able to hold all this rain. So I went out at 10 o'clock and I emptied my rain gauge. And I had, at 10 o'clock, 3 hours later, after the bottom started to fall out, I had 6.25 inches. Okay, emptied the rain gauge. Then in the morning at 7 o'clock, I went out, my rain gauge had an additional 2.39 inches. So the total rainfall was 8.64 inches for 24 hours. Big rainstorm, okay? At 3 o'clock that morning, I woke up and I thought I'd take a look and just see what was going on. I went to my front window and I thought I'd typically see after a rainstorm, the street would be wet and that kind of thing. Well, there's about 6 inches of water on the street. So I said, this is a little strange. So I got dressed, brought my phone, take pictures. I walked outside, I started first north on 8th Avenue. And I got to a catch basin and there was no indication that water was going down into that catch basin at all. And there was like 10, 12 inches of rain in the basin. I walked down to the intersection of 5th Court, 8th Avenue. As far as I could see down 8th Avenue, it was a lake. And up towards Federal Highway, 5th Court was a lake. Up the other way, it was a lake. So, had no idea what's in the water, snakes, who knows what. I didn't know if a power line was down, so I turned around and went the other direction, and I walked down 8th Avenue to 7th Street. I looked west on 7th Street. The water was all the way up to the school. And I looked the other direction, about where the project ended on 7th Street. There was a water covering everything. All the catch basins along there I looked in, I saw no evidence of any kind of drainage happening. There could have been some seepage. One catch basin on 7th Street near the liquor store, there was a very slow whirlpool of debris going, so there was some water going down that pipe. So I walked up to the school and again past many of the catch basins, and there was really no indication that water was going down the catch basins. I then got to the school and looked down 6th Avenue. As far as I could see, there was water completely covering the streets. And the water was about mid-calf and I guess that was about 20 after 3 by that time. So I decided to walk further south along 6th Avenue because I thought, geez, this is quite a rainstorm. We had a general flooding event. I got kind of just past the edge of where the project had gone on, and the streets were dry, and the other streets were dry, and the catch basins, you could see the grates. There was no water above the grates. So I turned around, walked back down 6th Avenue, and just as far as you could see in the project area, it was covered with water. So I thought, well, what's going on in the cove? So I hiked over to the cove. I would have taken my car out of the driveway, but obviously that would not have been a good idea. I went over to the cove and got on 7th Court. Streets there, all dry. No water in the catch basins at all. And I understand from my neighbors that what has always happened in the past, you get a rainstorm, it builds up, the end of 8th Avenue floods, it's a problem, but this general flooding of the entire neighborhood, my neighbor of 40 years, I talked to her, she said she's never seen anything like this, anything. And I mean, just something is really different, and obviously the one big thing that's really different is the project. And I just don't understand how we put such larger drain pipes, and we're very concerned about getting it to the main pipe and retarding the flow of water and reducing the amount going in. That I've talked to other people down at the north end of 8th Avenue, and they looked at the catch basins that are right there by the big pipe, and just no water was moving. And I just don't understand. I mean, what happened? I know it was a big storm, okay, but when I walked around, I checked the radar to see, previously how the storm had developed, and by 3 o'clock. It was at least 2 hours after the rain had stopped. And at 4 o'clock, when I was done hiking around, that was like, 3 or 4 hours after. And the streets were just completely covered. Where in the past, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, that after a relatively short period of time, not 4 hours, the water's gone. But now, the water stays. And, I think we really need to think about what's happening here. I mean, I just don't understand it. So, very confused.
My name is Patricia Lambo. We live at 1210 Southeast 5th Street in the Cove. And we got about 4 inches of water. We have 2 huge sewers, one on 5th Street, one on 13th. And how far up did the water come on our property? And went into our garage. So we did have water down in the Cove. So do they clean those sewers out? That's what I would like to know. As long as we live there, I have never seen anyone clean those sewers out. There's 2 sewers on our side. There's 2 sewers on the other side of the street. Have you seen anybody clean those sewers out? No.
If it's tidal, it seems like the further east you go, the worse it would be, but
Did the county and city stamp
those
these
guys have
plans?
more money.
Did they review them and stamp these plans? Did these go through Broward County and Capital?
They go through Broward County.
Did they, so nothing was caught showing that exfiltration was below the sea level or below the water table?
We can respond now. I'll respond now.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Dan Hers, and I live at 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. I just have 2 questions for the city. Is the city satisfied with Nucor Construction's performance on this project? I ask this because Nucor put in at least 31 change orders on this project, and almost half of them were approved by the city. Also, former Mayor Gans called the 8th Avenue Drainage Project the worst run project in the history of Deerfield Beach. I think it is imperative that we try to learn something from this debacle so that there is never a repeat performance. Let's look back at the 3 finalists for the 8th Avenue Drainage Project: Nucor, FG Construction, and Mancon Incorporated. The difference in the bid between Nucor and FG was 1.1 million, or 41%. The difference between Nucor and Mancon was 3.5 million, or 127%. This shows that the cheapest bidder is often not the best bidder for the job. My other main question is, what is the city's procedure in the event of an emergency like what occurred on October 26th? Numerous city employees have told me that City Manager Rodney Brimlow was on vacation on the 26th. So could you explain exactly what, if anything, the city did on the night of the 26th to help out the residents? Thank you.
To your question, yes, you are required to submit plans for Josh County to review. I want to bring up just two quick things. When a project is created, the first thing you do is you plan the project with an engineer. Okay, so there's an engineering company that creates the project. Once that project is reviewed and decided to be acceptable, then you find a contractor to build the project. So I just want to explain, there's probably two different things that are happening here between the design of the project and the contractor who built the project. Those are not the same people. So I just want to understand that there is a difference for that. Okay, did you want to come up? So,
His questions. Yeah. He had two questions.
did I just answer the question?
No, you
Sorry.
didn't.
Neither of them were.
Neither question.
Yeah, neither.
I don't really care.
So was there quality control?
The project is not over. Okay, it's important to understand. The
So you're
project.
gonna rip the road up again?
I'm sorry?
You're gonna tear the road up
No,
again?
the project is not over. Substantial completion was created, there's still a punch list. Okay, so the city still has to accept the project and review it. There has to be determination of what's occurred, and we're in the process of doing that. I mean, that's the point of this, is that the design engineer, who is not the contractor, the design engineer still has to accept and approve the project.
Well, I can tell you it failed.
It got worse.
Another historic storm next week, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, what?
We're just supposed to flood again and it's okay?
So,
Wait.
it is difficult, I understand that. It is difficult to know when a storm is coming. When a hurricane is coming or something like that, the city obviously prepares and we stage vehicles and we have people ready on call, right?
one was worse.
In the event of a after
You didn't have
hours,
vehicles on call when it happened in 2020.
No.
in the event of a hurricane or a storm.
It was a storm.
Yeah, in
It came
2020, we had
You
more
were
rain.
at-
We had more
2020,
rainfall.
Well, the first time this happened, there was nothing on call.
It's not correct.
Okay.
And in
So-
2020, we had more rain.
So far, are you guys happy with what's happening?
I can't answer
I've been
that. I
on that
don't,
street 55, I'm 55, I've been on 8th Avenue 53 years. My whole family, we own 4 houses on that street. I've been through all the hurricanes, everything. After the flood, after you guys did your glorious work, that neighborhood is worse than it's ever been. The worst. And I've been there 53 years. Been through all the storms, so all that shit that you show, excuse my language, you don't care. You guys said it was gonna be better. That's why you put the retention pond next to the storage unit. This, you did this. Nothing has worked. And this has made it even worse. 6th Avenue and 8th and 7th Avenue never flooded. Never.
Right.
Ever.
Never. Or
Now
7th
you do
Street.
this, and now we got flooding up to the middle school? Explain.
no,
You
I
can't?
can't, no, because I can't tell you that the city, I can't tell you the city is happy or upset or satisfied for anything, because the review and the analysis still has to occur. I know you want an immediate answer, and this hasn't occurred yet.
Yeah, but you can say sorry.
By this,
Does the engineer, I just have.
oh, everyone's talking at once, guys, this is what we need to be doing
The
today.
so the
Hold on,
engineer.
everyone's talking at once, hold on, guys. I want everyone to come up and talk, and I want to answer questions. But this project isn't completed, and I can't give you a knee-jerk reaction to any of it. I'm sorry, I can't do that.
I'd like to think the city can answer that they're not happy. I mean, none of us are happy.
Can I?
Well, I can tell you as a commissioner, I'm not happy with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Mr. Herz's questions is why was the contractor the chosen bidder? And second question, where was the team of people on call that night?
So, again, when you have a contract, right, when you have a project, you have a process for contractors to come forward. That contractor was chosen. I don't have an answer for why that contractor was chosen, other than they probably were the lowest bid. But that is the answer. That is how most projects for government work. So,
is it taxpayer dollars now to pay to fix this problem again?
I don't have an answer for that.
Well, you have to see that that's unacceptable as a taxpayer.
No, you just asked a question we don't have an answer for. Because look, I understand this is raw, but it's only been a week and the city can't respond that quickly. We have to do the analysis to determine if there is something wrong, and how that happens.
And we
haven't
understand
done
that,
that.
but
It can't happen.
so many families are displaced. And you guys aren't doing anything about it, right?
No, that's not true.
No, that is, my family's displaced, their families are displaced. Do you know how much it costs to get a rental or an Airbnb for a month and a half while our homes are fixed? We're supposed to foot the bill for that because FEMA doesn't foot the bill for that.
Because we have a second house now. For the next 2 months.
And that's on the low end.
Zero confidence in having the city. Zero.
$16,000 for a rental. That's what we're gonna have
for
to pay
2
to
months.
live somewhere
That's
where our
absurd.
house gets remade.
Well, you pay
We
for
just
it.
moved in.
Yeah.
We're brand new here. I know you guys have been here a long time. I've met most of you. Some of you I haven't met. We are brand new here.
With little kids, and again, we're not the only ones with children, a lot of you have children. To live through that night was terrifying. Terrifying to have little kids. I have a 1.5-year-old.
My 6-year-old
If we had
asked
more
me if
water
we
in
were
our
going to
home,
drown.
I don't think you understand how scary that is as a
her
parent.
out of her
Or
bed.
maybe you do. But if you do understand that, then we expect answers from the city. And we expect something to be done about it. You can't expect us to live through that again. These people have already lived through it twice.
And give a date, you say you need time, when, how much, 2 weeks?
Pay for my
Yeah.
displacement.
I don't have the answer for that. But again, this has been a week. We had this meeting because we wanted to talk and hear it right. But I'm sorry, tonight wasn't the meeting where we were gonna tell you what we found as finding of fact to the project. We don't have that information
We
yet.
would all like an answer on when that will be.
All right, we'll get you that answer.
Be nice to be priority.
All right, who wants to come speak next? You wanna come again? All right, we are gonna try to get everyone to speak first before we go back in, but you come to the speak.
The only concerns that I have, I heard about the contractors and their bids and all that. Most important thing is, who designed this project? Who engineered this project? And who approved this project? That's what we need to know. The contractor just took the recipe and baked the cake. That's it.
And that's the due diligence that has to be done. You're right. We have to look at who designed the project. We have to make sure that it was designed properly, and then we have to make sure it was built properly. That can't be done in a week. We have to make sure that it would, when you look at the design, I'm not an engineer either, but was it designed properly? And then, yes, it went out to bid. There were 3 contractors that said, we'll bake the cake, we'll bake the cake, we'll bake the cake for $5 million, we'll bake the cake for $4 million, we'll bake the cake for $3 million. So, yes, we chose the one that would bake the cake for $3 million. Did they bake the right cake? Did they bake it right? I don't know yet. But, it could be a bad design. If you
I have a question about that. Mike.
those are things that have to look. This has only been a week, so we don't have those answers. But those are the things we have to look at. That's why we have a city attorney as well. These are things that the city has to look at. Was it designed properly? Was it built properly? What? Okay, I mean, being a non-engineer, yes, I can agree with that, but those are the things that the lawyers have to look at. Those are the things that the engineers have to look at. So we are in the process of doing that part, but we don't have those answers yet.
So my neighbors and I have the answers for why they went low bid. And Joseph, I know why you went low bid. Because you sold our trees for $1,500 each tree, and we know this for a fact. So Howard, don't badmouth because you still got your trees and we don't.
The city did not sell any of those trees.
Don't badmouth me, boy.
Don't float away anyway.
I understand that we talked about the engineer and then the cake baker, all right? My question is this, the engineer, who's looking at what he did? Because if we don't have oversight from the very beginning, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference on who bakes the cake if the guy who gave the recipe was negligent. So going further, the plan for the engineer, who's gonna look at what he designed for the other idiots to put together? One other thing, you can answer that in a second. I live, you know where I live on, right by Little Havana there. We've never had flooding at all at Hampton Gardens. We had a 10-inch water line, and we were watching the water come down 8th Avenue and 7th Avenue. And because they made a little dip like this, it sloshed over and came in. And we had 2 French drains located on our property where it held, but it went up the first step almost to the landings of the first floors of the condo. And I haven't lived in this neighborhood only 10 years, but I've lived in Deerfield 47 years, and we've had a lot of rain. But something, and I think everybody knows it, no offense to anybody, but I think you all know something went wrong, and we have to get to the bottom of it. And if it's the engineer, somebody's head is going to be on a platter for this. And you cannot let these people with kids, how would you feel if your kid said, am I going to drown? It breaks your heart. So when you think about making excuses, and I'm not saying you are, but when you're thinking of making excuses, think about these kids that were wondering whether they were going to drown or not, and their parents happen to explain that. That breaks my heart. Now you got me fired up, damn it.
Due diligence is done ahead of time, not after.
I live at the corner of 8th Avenue and 4th Street. So I live where the main drain is, where all the project names for that one spot where there's a 3-foot pipe that goes back to the main drain. The 54-inch drain everybody knows runs through our backyards on 8th Avenue, goes from 4th Street all the way to 7th Street, I think. 7th Street. So that's where all the water goes. On the 26th, which has happened before, once the system stops working, the water rises until it gets higher than our yard, then it goes to the back. There's big drains back there. There's bigger than anything in our neighborhood. And we have them in different people, and it can tell you. And so it goes in there, and then it'll go out to Little Harbor and goes out to the canal. And I've been here since '94. We lived here, been through all the hurricanes, and some of the biggest storms we've had are not from hurricanes. They're like this type of storm. And over 30 years, we've had the water come up 10, 15 times. Not just on the hurricanes. And it comes up where we live. We're a little bit higher than a couple of the other houses. It comes up to our doorstep. And it has. And it happens. There's something about the system that we have with that 3-foot pipe that runs to the back. It stalls. And so usually it's running, it's raining, we've had inches of rain, it runs, and then it stalls at some point for about half an hour. Street floods, just us on 8th Avenue usually. And the water running down from 7th Avenue and 6th Avenue runs down 4th Street. You can see it like a river. It starts to pool up, and in about half an hour or so, boom, it's flowing, shoots out, half an hour later, it's been gone. It's been that way for 30 years that I've lived here. And so now, it was at 2020, we had a time where it didn't happen. The water didn't go away, and the water kept rising. That's what started this whole thing.
in November 2020, right? It went up, it was above our door. So we're holding the water back. We got some water in the house for the first time in 2020. And then, there was a cleaning project. I don't know are you aware of this project that happened after 2020?
They want to clean the drains?
Clean the drains. They did an inspection. They actually found a project in my next door neighbor where there was a blockage, which they just recently fixed. So they went through and they cleaned all the drains, right? And we're really concerned about the 54-inch drain that goes straight to Little Harbor, because that's where all our water goes. We're capturing all that water from the whole neighborhood right in front of our house, okay? So when it starts going out that way, even if it floods, it goes into our backyard, and then it keeps going and we don't get flooded. So when that drain floods in the back and stops, you know you're in trouble. When they did that cleaning project after 2020, I don't know if it was 21 or 22, we didn't have any floods. When they cleaned out those drains, and I would love to see the report from that. I don't know if you have any availability, because actually we have some records. You don't have any availability? Please. There's some records here. June 22, 6.6 inches. September 22, 4.4 inches. November 23, 5.4 inches. February 24, 5 inches. Okay? And then June 24, which we're already into this project, 5 inches. We didn't have any flooding. Water ran right out. Then, in the June, this June, after they've been working on this project for a year, all of a sudden we have a flood. All of a sudden the water stopped running. And then, and I hear is, because I've only taken pictures of a few of them, September 17th, this last month, it rained 1 inch in the morning and flooded our street. The water did not drain. It's always drained. And it has nothing to do with 3-foot pipes or 18-inch pipes, because it comes, once it starts running down the street, it doesn't matter. And it hits our corner, and there was always a big drain there, now there's a small one. And then you see the funnel, and boom, it's gone. And these experiences after that cleaning, it was raining 4 inches, and we was using the street. Now, after doing all this construction, all of a sudden, the back drain. Well, what happened this last time on October 26th? We get home, I guess it started raining about 7. By 9, it's really raining, all right? So we may have 1 or 2 inches of rain. I go out to the drain. I have one in my front yard, the big one, the most important one, and the one in the back, which is a little bit higher, but that's the big drain, 54-inch drain. The one in the front's not moving. Only been a couple inches of rain. I go in the back, it's already flooded. It's not moving. The back one's not moving. That's it. That's before 9 o'clock. It rained another 2 hours. The thing's not moving. It always had been after half an hour, that thing was moving. And like I said, the back one was moving if the front one couldn't keep up. They were dead in the water. I didn't see even a trickle of any movement until after 12:30. 3 hours, 5 hours after it started raining. It's not moving. So regardless of all the stuff he built, the pipe that runs from my front yard to the back, is the same pipe. They didn't replace it. It doesn't matter because the pipe in the back is 54 inches, it's 5 foot tall, runs all the way to Little Harbor. It's the same pipe, and it's the same pipe that's always worked, but it hadn't worked. And it hadn't worked since June 13th, when they heard this. Everybody remembers black cloth over the drains? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, they blamed the black cloth on the drains. But when I looked at it, and I looked at the drain in the back, didn't have black cloth on it, I knew that was our savior. It wasn't draining either. That was in June. Then in September, 1-inch rainstorm, flood. Water's not moving. I don't know why I couldn't have thought of this and said, I didn't picture. I thought this was going to save us and like save our house worth, you know, and everything. So now I'm thinking, why can't we get our drains cleaned? They've been dumping dirty water, but they haven't cleaned, and they refuse to clean the ones in the back. They never have. I've never had anybody clean the one in the back, right? And except for that one time where you had independent service came in and they did the whole thing, and we were good for 3 years until construction started. When construction started, and they talked about exfiltration, we were in this room 5 years ago, right? And they talked about, well, after that, and then we had a meeting 2 years ago, exfiltration, and we're saying water table. Exfiltration, the water will seep out into the ground. But they weren't telling us about the project. They were, is a map that showed which street was going to be first, second, third. We didn't have any input, and they were trying to just sell us on this exfiltration thing, you know? But when they went to start, they did 6th Avenue, remember? They had the pool had to get started. So that's the whole year. They had to get that done. They were working on 6th Avenue, and we thought they had actually going a different direction that was taking water away. They started on us in January. They started digging pilot holes. I work at home, so I can see. They go out dig pilot holes, you know, like a post hole. You walk over after they're done, and the water is this far below the ground, and it's in January. It's like 3 months after the rainy season, and the water's still, that's where our water table has been the last, I don't know how many years. We don't have that drought problem, it seems, lately, you know? So we do that, and so right away, we had to get these big engine-powered pumps to drain our water around the area they're working. They jam PVC pipes into the ground, and they turn those pumps on, and they were on 24 hours a day. They'd leave for the weekend and leave these pumps on. They were loud. And they were running, and you know what they were doing? They were pulling groundwater out of the ground so they could actually dig and put these pipes way down below the water table. And I hadn't really thought about it until you see what happened. Because they were pumping dirty water for months. From January to March, they were working on our street in March, the whole month. And after that, 7th Street, and before that, 6th. And they were pumping water the whole time, and they were pumping it into our storm drain. Dirty water. Now, there's been dispute as to whether there's sand in that water, there's dirt in dirty water, there's something in that water, sediment. Nobody's going to even look to see what 3 months of pumping dirty water into that main 54-inch line has done. Nobody's looked since they had cleaned it out, 22, I think. You know, and we were in such good shape. We were really positive about our home values at that point. But right now, everybody I've talked to, they talk about rain events. It's like we have rain this much all the time. We can go back and show you every time we've had 5 inches of rain. You know? And we're going to double it 2 inches. So all I'm saying is, and then
the ground was not saturated.
To look at that, and at least if I'm totally wrong, to say, hey, look, we went all the way down here and cleaned this all out, and that's not the problem. Okay. Well, I've heard that. You're not the first one to say that. So, I'm hoping it's not that.
I was at 4th and 8th, and I'm an engineer, I'm a civil engineer, professional engineer, so I want to know, are those, the plans that were used, are they available to us to look at, to know who that engineer was, to be able to verify some sort of third-party verification about the plans, because it looks like they just put everything in exactly as it was with just bigger pipes. They didn't move sewer grates to where it seemed like most obvious. They kept things behind 10, 15 feet of grass, which doesn't seem to make sense. And the only thing that hasn't been thought of is you can design the system as well as you want, and it's perfect, but it's always its weakest link. And the weakest link in our case, I think, is where it leaves our neighborhood. And that's where the bottleneck is, that they're right at there by Brian's house at 8th Ave. So you can do everything in our neighborhood, but has anybody looked into that leaving the neighborhood, or like the impacts of dumping all that dirty water, or the vac trucks that have been nonstop for the past 3 weeks, dumping God knows what into that main line leaving the neighborhood? Like, that needs to be, you can't just do whatever you want and expect it to be okay. Like, you have to think about these things. So that's the thing. I would like to have access to those plans. Like, something needs to change, because you had 4 storms in the last 16 years on that list. It's actually missing one on July 24th, 2021. We also had flooding. So it's 5 times in 16 years. That's not a 25-year storm. Like, that's 25-year storm is defined as the possibility of that storm having 4% in a year. So if it's happening every 3 years, that's not a 25-year storm. Like, obviously this area has issues. Maybe you need to design for a bigger storm. You can't hide behind this 25-year storm thing, because that's not a 25-year storm. It's happening every 3 years. So I think that the design is bad, that maybe the contractor obviously did not good work as well, but something needs to change though. We can't just say, okay, well, it's a bad storm. It's happening every 3 years, and now it's worse than it was the last 3 years. So something needs to change, and we need to figure it out. We need to look at these plans.
I live on 325 Southeast 8th Avenue, and during 2020, when 8th Avenue flooded, we got water just in our yard, no big deal. After the project, obviously, my house completely flooded. And we had to get an Airbnb down the street for $5,800, which is insane. I have 3 kids. I want to know if the engineer that made the plans for the project, did they have more than one solution, or was it only one solution? And how did he come up with that? The next is, when we used to get a lot of rain, the middle school field, the parking lots would be underwater, right?
Right.
So now, when the school started, before the school started, 6th Avenue was the first one, because I wanted to do summertime before school, yada, yada, yada. Why the hell did this parking lot get added to our system, knowing that 8th Avenue was the lowest spot? So now you're taking all that water, and now it's coming this way again. Just doesn't make sense. And also, we went to the meeting here when the construction company had all the little things up here, talking about the project, what they're gonna do, this, that, and the other. And they said, yeah, we're gonna put in these 38-inch pipes, or whatever the diameter is, to hold more water. Like they were saying, that's a giant French drain system. We argued over and over again to say that's not gonna work. New Orleans has never flooded besides Katrina, right? And they only flooded because the levees broke. Why do we not think about putting pumps in? We've been asking for pumps for how many years? And it's just, I don't understand. Water just can't sit there. We need to pump the water out somewhere. And it's gonna keep happening over and over again. And after the project's done, here we are, and now it's 8th, 7th, 6th Avenue and beyond is flooded. It's even worse than before. It just doesn't make any sense to us.
Real quick, I just wanted to pull on some heartstrings too. Maybe this will help get some answers quicker. I feel you to the couple that just moved in, because we were here in 2020 and our house flooded 3 weeks after. We actually went out our kitchen window with our baby like in the carrier and walked through the waist deep water. So been there, done that. But then my daughter asked me this morning, she's 3. I mean, thank goodness we didn't have to look for an Airbnb, and you know, we were fortunate to have family in town that we're living in currently. And she asked me today when we were going to go back home. And I kind of told her, you know, soon, don't worry. And then it hit me today that the insurance company won't pay out for 60 days at least. That puts us past Christmas. So thanks for that.
Good evening, Roger Price, Second Street. I've worked in hurricane work many times. I feel absolutely horrible for the families that have been put out. So here's my question. I know Mr. Brennan is sitting at the back of the room. He's our city manager, if you didn't know that. So here are the questions. Will we divert funds from upcoming storm management projects to rectify this mistake? Because upcoming projects should be put on hold. If we can't do this one correctly, how could we move on to any other ones in this city? And funds should be taken, because I know that this commission has sat up here and made decisions about upcoming projects. Money should be taken from that to help those families that have been put out. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is April Bolovich. Our family's problems with the flooding's a little bit different than y'all's. We didn't have the benefit of a project. We've had water intrusion in our garage at 899 Northeast 4th Street. That is north of Hillsborough Boulevard. We also own the house. Well, our house is directly next door to Duffy's, behind on the other side of that tall wall. We also own a house behind that. That area, that curve has 5 drains. None of them were draining that night, and the water piled up and went out an empty lot. The vacant lot used to be known as the boat junkyard. Boats are no longer there, thank goodness, because they would have been piled into the canal. But when that water piled up around the corner, the only way out was through that vacant lot. It took out so much sand that it buried another drain pipe that is behind Duffy's in that sand. So that drain pipe is now several feet deep in sand. You could park a boat on it and walk on it. So you definitely want to take a look at that. Aside from that, the water flowed south past Duffy's towards Northeast 4th Street, around that wall, and into our garage about 2 feet. It also came far up the side, parallel to that the wall, and into the side garage. So the garage door. I mean, we had water, a lot of water in there. The following day, I spoke with quite a few different neighbors, just walking around Saturday and going to church on Sunday. And I learned that there was quite a critical situation over at Pioneer Park where water, I think it was piling up underneath where the bridge is, the overpass, and there's a drain system where it goes just past the tennis court parking lot. So it shoots into an empty, I guess you would call that a basin or a drain field. Yeah, thank you. I don't know what the proper terminology is. But all that water was sitting there waiting to come out, and the neighbors are out there the next day, and it's still there. And it was trickling out. So they're calling 911 because, people are wandering around. And the danger is the tremendous pressure all that water had. Well, at some point during the day, it shot out so far, so hard, all the way across that it took out the other side of the berm. And that's kind of exactly what happened at Steve's house. Or not his house, but his empty lot. It seems to me like wherever these drains are ending, they're ending in sticks and dirt. The water's not getting out. And when it does finally get out, it's a pretty dangerous situation. But, yeah. All right. Well, I think that is. Oh, you know what? My other concern is if we can't get rid of the existing water that we have, how are we going to channel or manage the water once we've got the Access Project built there and whatever else is going into Duffy's? Where is that water going to go? Because that functions now as an impromptu drain field. My understanding from the neighbors is that the Christmas tree lot, everybody knows the Christmas tree lot, that's a lake. It was a lake Sunday night, Saturday, and Sunday night. Okay, thank you. I didn't have the benefit of seeing it, but I heard about it from a bunch of different people. yeah, once we pour all those 500 condos or apartments on there, where's all the water that used to drain there gonna go?
Holy shit.
So you guys can have some conversation, but you guys are just being punching bags. So I actually want some answers because I'm not an engineer and I don't know how to know, but I do know what the way it used to be and the way it is now. So first off, that night I called the city knowing that water was coming up. So I live on 523 Southeast 7th. Okay. I've never had water up my yard past like a third of the yard. Since you guys have done that, my part of work on the street. I physically have to move that out of the street because I've already lost 2 work cars because of this work that you guys have done. Not you guys, but the city. So I called that night being like, hey, is anybody coming out? Oh yeah, we're sending people out to look. Well, that was just lip service. They should have been like, you know what, we're screwed. Nobody came in. We don't have any pumps to turn on. You're on your own, right? Obviously, they're not going to say that, but they should. Also, quick question. I know I do a lot of work in West Delray and Boca Raton. They have the Lake Worth Drainage District that affects levels of water for stuff like this. Do you guys have that down here? So is there any way we can work with them to be like, holy shit, we're about to get underwater. Can you drain stuff?
We can't do it immediately. We are working with them about changing our permit to see if we can lower the level.
All right, so more lip service. Also, the stuff you put in, is it actually a French drain like they're saying, or is it pumpable pipes?
It's both. It's got pumps, there's no pumps. No pumps.
So it's a French drain. Okay, cool. Because, so I live on 523 Southeast 7th. I have a drain right in front. Okay, we haven't had rain since that night, I don't think. If you want, I'll show you pictures. There's still water right in front of my house, maybe 4 inches below that pipe. It never used to be like that. My friend's on 8th Street, and we all know each other, and it should say something, the fact that all these people are here, and these are all people I see every weekend, even people that just moved in. Okay, I'm born and raised in Deerfield. I lived on the island for 5 years. We've never had anything like this. Okay, if it's a French drain, basically on 8th at 403, they have a drain in front of their house. I don't see any water. So they had the problem 5 years ago. But now my problem's just as bad. I had water come in, not into my house luckily, because they got it worse, and sewage. Okay, after all these behemoth pieces of cement are sitting on the side of the street for months. So that had to deal with something. Okay, so the house was sewage, they had a pipe sitting right where their pipe was. Okay, gravity happens. So you guys fixed the problem, but you made it worse. Back before the original problem, wasn't there pipes that weren't, a pump that wasn't turned on? Wasn't that the main blameage? You just said that, but. There, right? Somebody said, so I don't think we ever got answers for that initial flooding 3 years ago. So, was there a pump back then that could have been turned on?
Why?
Okay, so will you guys say now, after however many, that hey, A, let's have emergency people on standby no matter what. B, let's put some pumps in place no matter what, so I don't get the lip service that I got that night and that I'm getting tonight. You're both shaking yes, but can I get a verbal yes that you will do that from now and you'll vow to do that? Because I don't have the money to get a $5,000 Airbnb. Me neither. You know, and half these guys don't either. So I'm still not hearing a yes, that you guys are gonna vow to do that for us so it doesn't happen again. With the next 100-year storm, or 10-year storm, or 3-year storm.
Right, so I guess unfortunately I'm not sure I can answer the question with an answer, but it doesn't always work where essentially you take a pump and it cleans it out. It's a little bit more complex.
Okay.
But we have to evaluate how we get a response for this area.
So when do we think we'll have that answer?
Right.
When you will have a plan for us who are suffering?
Because you guys are saying, well, it's only been a week, but for us, you know, my friends are suffering, their kids are suffering, you know, and that night I had, so 5 years ago we put a pool in the backyard, one of the biggest pool makers in the state, and he was dumbfounded by the fact that he's like, you have to be able to right. We had 2 pumps going day and night to keep that water level down. Well, that explains why I have water in my front yard in that pipe, because there's a spring right there. So if you guys planned, engineer-wise, to just install a French drain, how did you possibly think that was gonna work?
It's not as simple as that. It's not exactly what they're saying. It's below the water level customers. It is larger pipe for storage. The problem, like you said, is, we have a problem in this area, especially with, groundwater discharge.
Right, but that problem wasn't there before you started this project, at least on 7th Street.
You can't exfiltrate into saturated.
Okay, but my house is never, my garage is never flooded before. I had an infinity pool in the backyard, and I've never had that before. So when they put in the pool, they put in a little drain hole, which keeps, I don't never have to drain my pool unless the ground is saturated. Well, if you guys put in these French drain or whatever they are, the same thing's gonna happen. So why would you not put in a plan, emergency plan, so something like 5 years ago didn't happen again? Why would you not do that?
If the engineer's here.
Engineer guy?
the process behind it.
What, but nobody's saying anything. You guys are just doing lip service all the way around, and we know and we're sorry. Maybe we should have waited to have this meeting until somebody had answers, because like somebody else said, you can only say, I'm sorry so much, before it doesn't mean anything.
Everyone's concerns, we have heard everybody. We understand exactly what the problems are, and then we have to figure it out.
It's the same as 5 years ago.
I just don't think anything's changed, but, so again, if it's possible, will you guys at least try to pump some of this water out once somebody sounds, because how many phone calls did you guys get that night? Okay, well, I called 3, so I'm sure you got more than that.
What did he say, 2?
He said 12.
I called twice.
Everybody called.
Raynard told me they were asleep.
Okay, so on that same topic, we've been talking a lot about designs and engineering and the drains, but we really have to address the issue of communication and emergency management with this city. The night of the storm, I called the after-hours emergency line after some of my neighbors already called, and I was told that it was the first that they were hearing of the issue, and they had to call me back. They did call me back, and they told me that we were under flash flood warning and asked me if I had received that warning. That's when I told them there's 2 inches of water inside my house. I'm aware. What are we doing about it? And they said, I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to wait it out. Then, days later, when the pipe in front of my house broke and sewage backed up into my home, I called that emergency line again, because to me, that constituted an emergency. I was told that unfortunately, because it was during business hours, I had to call the normal business hour phone number, which I did, and I waited on hold for 1 hour and 15 minutes before I hung up. I never spoke to a person. In fact, the only person from this city who helped me was from a totally different department, and it's only because I have the benefit of being neighbors with Tom Noland, who knows everybody in this city, that city official was in my neighborhood going door to door checking on people, and that's the only person who helped me get that problem resolved. It's extremely disappointing that I literally had sewage in all of my bathrooms after this disaster happened. Nobody picked up the phone. I called multiple times back to the emergency line on another phone and explained, and the staff said, I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. This is normal business hours. You have to call the normal business hour phone. That is very disappointing, and that has to be addressed as well as all of these other concerns, but we have emergency lines in place for a reason. They gave all of us a different answer that night, that they hadn't heard about it, that they're sending people out, that people are asleep, people are on vacation. It's all different answers. So nobody knew what they were talking about. Nobody was on the same page, and at the end of the day, nobody did anything about it.
I don't think it would be bad to hear from some of the boys that were loose on the ground, Rodney, right? Yeah, whoever was doing the cleanup after, what's your take?
Once the floodwater subsided.
I would just love to hear your opinion on it. If you think that pipes are maybe dirty and clogged, if maybe there's been negligence in cleaning out people's back drains, anything like
I worked
that.
with the contractor, make sure that they installed the pipe according to specs.
How often do you get direction from the city to do drain cleanage and clean outs and checking people's grates and stuff like that?
Well, this was a new system, so that wasn't required right now.
But in the past 5 years?
Now that we're coming to the end of the project, that's why you see the truck that you see floating around the project, because they're cleaning out all the structures now. That's the same truck that you see dumping the water. So that truck is cleaning out all the structures. We're coming to the end of the project. So in about a week, that truck will be out.
Just again, back to the easements behind people's homes on Fifth Ave. Have you ever gotten any direction to clean those?
No,
Eighth Ave,
that's
excuse me.
not part of the project though.
No, I'm not talking about the project. I'm just talking about city maintenance.
Well, right now, we're focusing on installing the new drainage.
In the past 5 years, Ronnie, it's a simple
I
question.
only been here 1.5 years.
Oh. So, how long have you been here?
I've been here 9 years.
Okay, so in the past 5 years, how many times have you? Can you ask, who is? Can I have a name?
You'll have to call during regular business hours.
I'll call the emergency.
Call the emergency line.
All right, baby, you ready? Let's get out of here. Wait for time at this point.
I'd like, I do have just one question, because it seems to me like with the failures that have just happened, presumably this was a working system 2.5 weeks ago. Now that system has failed and.
Excuse me just one second, please. For the people that are getting ready to leave, I did want to summarize a couple of things. I've been taking notes back here, but also there is a sign-in sheet that's going around because we do want to be able to reach out. I'm sorry that you're leaving early because I do want to discuss a couple of pertinent things that have been brought up.
It's going on 3 hours.
All right, well then I'll speak
You guys
now.
should have prepared notes ahead of time.
Well, I had to hear what your complaints were to get the notes.
Our complaints are our houses are flooded.
Right,
It
I
happened 5 years
understand,
ago.
but there are
It
very
happened again.
specific
Well, it's very
things.
simple.
There are very specific things that were brought up here tonight that I think that the city can address.
You have the floor.
You answered no questions whatsoever as to what happened. You're just
They're
giving
gonna take your money.
you're giving us rainfall.
Take your money, tell
My question is later.
We can have no solution, or we can work toward a solution together. There was, and there was supposed to be a solution in 2005. And in 2005, the proposals that were made to the city were 3.2 million, 4 million, and 5 million. And the city didn't go with that even at that time. So when the proposals came up later at $3 million,
20 years later.
yeah, when it came up several years later that you're gonna go with a $3 million project, somebody probably should have looked at that carefully.
Who was that person?
Whoever was the city manager at the time.
You can't tell me?
I'm not exactly sure who signed off on the original one. It
How
would
long
have
have
been,
you
it was
been with
before
us?
my time, so I don't really know if it was Burgess or if it was Santucci, I don't know.
Okay.
I wasn't here, in this role. But a couple of things, if you don't mind, is it okay if I talk from back here? Sure. Because I have some notes I wanted to comment on. One is, I want to, and I don't want I know there are elected officials here, I don't want any of the elected officials to comment on anything that I'm saying here, because there are gonna be things that come before the commission that I'm gonna need your approval on, so please don't discuss the things I'm about to mention now. So I'm going to get an outside, independent review of the whole thing, in an emergency way so that we can have an update by the, commission meeting in 2 weeks and a day. So on the 18th of November, I want to have an update from an outside person who doesn't know this project, is completely outside of the city, and I want them to tell me whether it was engineered and designed properly. From what I'm not an engineer or designer, I don't know, but what I'm hearing from you tonight, it doesn't sound like it was, but I don't know the answer to that. It's extremely disappointing. There's several things that are extremely disappointing. One is the result that everybody experienced that's here today. It's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. And nobody should be out of their house, let alone trying to figure out where they're going with their children. I have 4 children myself. I understand that, that's the trauma of that is overwhelming. But I'm gonna have an outside engineering panel done immediately so that we can have some sort of feedback to you, which is why I want the sign-off sheet done, so that we can both contact you by phone and or email. But it will definitely be an update also on the 18th of November to the City Commission. That engineering analysis, if they tell us that, I'm trying to be PG-13 here, that it's screwed up, then our commission is gonna have to make a decision about how we're gonna fix it, and they're gonna have to figure out that we're gonna have to make the proper financial appropriations to fix what may have been a bad engineering design. I don't know that, I have to find out from that, but we're going to do that as quickly as possible. And I wanna provide updates on the 18th, but I also wanna be able to provide updates via email to each of you as well. So if you can make sure that that's on there. It's not in any particular order. The communication, emergency response, the phone calls that were made, the misinformation that was given, absolutely unacceptable. That is entirely unacceptable, and that communication will be resolved by the day after tomorrow. Or those folks won't be working here. That is, I need to find out from those that made those phone calls which numbers were being called to make sure that I'm addressing the right people and that I can look to see who actually was contacted. The bottleneck of the main line that I heard that's leaving from the neighborhood, that's something that we can look at right away to see if there is an issue there. I have heard from some staff members, but I'm gonna also rely on what the outside engineers tell me regarding pumps. Because this is the lowest location in the area. It's, the elevations of the homes are somewhere between 4.5 and 6 feet in some cases, 6.5 feet. So part of that issue is the elevation. And if we were to pump, do we just pump to a higher elevation, or do we have to pump all the way to the Hillsborough Canal? Which is another issue, because as you heard from, I don't remember who was commenting on the north end, but there was someone up on the north end, is that if we're pushing water up to the north end, there's also water accumulating up in that area. So we have to make sure that that is all balanced. I also need to look into, again, the commission, I don't want to comment on this from you, but on what we can do to mitigate some of the financial hardships that are going on. That is a reality that you guys are dealing with, that you're having to go and stay in other places. Definitely not expected at this time of the year. I get that, and I will see what I can do to work toward that end, to see what I can do for financial mitigation on some of the issues that you're experiencing. The divert, I want to make sure I got this right. That was about the diverting fund. The drain pipes, there was something about the drain pipes up near Duffy's, and all of that. I know that with the new construction, there are some other provisions that are being put in place for that construction project. I'm going to have those projects re-reviewed to make sure that that drainage does meet the requirements and that it's not some other kind of nonsense schematic that it just has, okay, well, we got to drain, we're going to have some makeshift drainage here. So I'll have those re-reviewed to make sure that what they're putting in and is what's engineered is correct, and I'll have that comment.
When is that supposed to break ground?
They've already started with the destruction, with the leveling. I don't know the date that it's going to break ground. Do they even have a date yet? Yeah, they don't have the permit to break ground yet.
There's no site,
I hope
there's no
that's a
site
tough
plan.
one to get.
Well, that's why we have to make sure on the drainage before they break ground. The pumps. So with regard to the pumps, again, there is a very small drainage field near the storage facility near Fifth. That's a very, very tiny spot. I want also us to look, there are some rather larger swales that are over there that might be able to be used for some other drainage enhancements. We'll look at those things, but part of that may be also coming from the outside engineer review. I think that having somebody outside of the city, outside of these bid processes, look at it, that comes in and their sole purpose is to review and analyze this drainage project and what the outcome was in this particular event especially, we need to know that, and the commission deserves to know that so that we can move forward. I agree. I've mentioned something about some of the major projects. I don't remember who mentioned it, about moving forward with those when we're sitting here with this one, that who knows what the condition of this is. I agree. We need to address this issue first. this is the highest priority issue before we go working on some of the other areas. Let's see, I know that we've been taking, we've got the notes that we're taking on this. All of the notes, by the way, from here and the ones from tomorrow night, any comments that are said at commission meeting tomorrow night, or any of the feedback that we're getting in the emails, we will provide all of that to the reviewer as well, so that they get the nuance of what you guys are complaining about. I'm sorry that anybody has to go through what all of you have been going through. It is unacceptable. I saw the water line marks myself, and I've also seen photographs of it from inside your homes that are 14 and 18 inches off the floor. Absolutely unacceptable. So we do need to see what that is. The reality is, the water situation is, according to our ecologists, is only going to get worse as time goes on, as the salt water intrudes even further. So the reality is that this has to be addressed now. This cannot wait another 6 months, year and a half before we have the absolute solvable plan in place. So those are some of the things I wanted to make sure. I will be working on the economic relief part and getting the independent review as soon as possible. If you have, I know that some of you said that you are engineers, and if you are technically savvy or whatever, but your own experience is also important. So if we did not cover it tonight, or you want to be more specific, or you want to be more detailed in an email, you can send it to Web City Manager. It will be included in our whole portfolio that we're going to have reviewed, because everybody had different experiences. Those of you that were experiencing floods for the first time, that's very important information, because obviously there's something going on, irrespective of the 7.2 feet, water level, that is, needs to be looked at. And that may be something different, maybe something totally different, doesn't matter, it still needs to be addressed and still needs to be looked at and resolved and mitigated. So I want to make sure that everybody's, who maybe didn't speak tonight, some people aren't comfortable speaking in front of people, please send an email. If you want to send it anonymous, you can make up an email, that's fine. But just, we would like to get the information. If you would include your address, that's very beneficial for us, because then they can look specifically on a map at what that issue is at that particular location. Tomorrow night, we do have a city commission meeting. There will be the short presentation on that as well. I apologize if it appears that the presentation appeared like some sort of an excuse. That's not at all what it was intended to be. The staff prepared that to try and show, and I appreciate that that's what it may have sounded like, but the staff was preparing that to show that this was a pretty significant event. And when you're talking about water that's at a 7.2 foot level above sea level, and you have homes that are at 4.5, 5.5 feet, that's a problem. But we should have a drainage system in place that is working much more efficiently to resolve and get the water out of the area. So, yes?
Rodney, do you know, I heard hearsay that this contractor was the first time he ever did a job. Do you know?
I don't know. I was not part of the bid process, or
Something I heard.
yeah.
And when I bring up the trees for all the smart alecks,
Where
the
you
reason
go
why they
home.
went low bid, and we know this for a fact, and you weren't any part of it either, is they worked that deal out with the contractor, that they got to sell the trees for $1,500.
Yep.
And I'm very sensitive, because I walked to every house and collected the money, and it's 20 some odd years ago. So that's funny to me, and you don't have any, if you're young Nolan, you don't have any. Thank you.
But please, if you're walking out, please make sure that we have at least some kind of contact information, because I don't want anybody who's coming to these, you're taking time out of your day and your night, and you do have families and you have other priorities, but I don't want you to miss any of the communication that's going to be related to this as well. Yes?
One second.
So, at the, we beat the city up pretty good tonight, I think. Hopefully they got the point that we don't like when we flood. But if any of you that live on 8th Avenue have seen our environmental services guys out there, and even our streets guys, I know the sewer guys have been out there, this isn't our city employees that made this decision. They're just doing their jobs. So when they drive by and they're out there digging holes and trying to fix sewer, I know we have our disagreements with them because we want to blame the city. They're not the ones that made this decision. So our guys have been shoveling garbage out of our front yards for the last, 5 days. They're doing a hell of a job. And Roy walking around our neighborhood and going door to door. I don't know how he got that job, but he did it. And to walk up to somebody's house after they just lost everything and try to talk to them and communicate with them, he did a hell of a job. I don't know who picked him, but he did a hell of a job. And so there are a couple of good things that did happen. It was a terrible event, and we need to figure out what happened. But the good parts of the city did show up. And we need all of those parts to be the same. But whoever picked this plan, it didn't work. So we got to find a better plan.
And that's exactly what I was gonna say, that when Roy heard that citations were going out in the neighborhood, he came right over and knocked on every single door. Because I was over there every day, and they knocked on every single door to talk to the people, that they weren't informed of that was what the situation was, and that there was be no more citations, and make sure the garbage was picked up every day, or as often as needed to be. So thank you, Roy.
Yes, so how do we move forward? How are we going to rebuild our homes? Okay, I'll tell you, I'm a GC, and I've worked 12 hurricanes over the past 30 years. I'm in the restoration business. And I would recommend that you put your homes back together, you do 2-foot flood cuts, antimicrobial, because this is black water. This is category 3. No matter what you've heard about being non-contaminated soil and rainwater, it is category 3. Needs to be cut out. Don't clean up your walls and don't spray something or try to fix it. That's not going to work. You have to cut out. We have rock lath and plaster in many of our homes. They're 50 years old. Some of you folks have drywall because you've been flooded before and you cut it out. Don't go back with drywall. Okay, this time we need to fortify our homes. We need to think about putting Drylock on the masonry or even elastomeric on the masonry. Stop the water from coming in. Okay, go back with tile on your floors. Don't put laminates or anything like that that's going to have to be pulled up. Right, so you need to fortify your homes. So if you have to don't go back with drywall. Use a product like Dense Glass or Dense Armor or even Durock. Spend the extra money if you have to and harden the home. Okay. So the water is not going to penetrate your house. This is what you do in a flood zone. This is what they do in the Keys. So we have to think about that. Going back, spend a few bucks, do what you have to do. The work is the same as far as putting it up and labor. Materials may cost a little more. But do that. And harden your homes. Now we have to worry about the perimeters, the doorways, and things like that. When you get sandbags and these things, try to stop it in front of you. Raise up all your appliances, the washer and the dryer, the air conditioner. Make sure that's above the flood zone. Because, it happens. And it may happen again. Going back, take a few of these tips and maybe that'll help.
Well, thank you all for coming.
And those that are still within earshot, look for an email, if you left an email address by the end of the week, so that we can follow up with you.
What was that email address you mentioned that we could?
Web City Manager.
Thanks for encouraging me to come.
I'm glad you did.
Concerned